Hey there. Tonight, let's travel back, way back. Before smartphones, before paper, before even the wheel. Picture yourself 15,000 years ago, when organizing a group of warriors meant something there entirely different than sending a group text. You're about to discover how your ancestors coordinated massive military campaigns without a single written word. Without maps, without any of the tools we consider essential today. Welcome to our journey through the forgotten art of Stone Age warfare. I know you're here to unwind, maybe drift off to sleep. But before you do, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. Are you tucked in bed? Maybe listening with headphones while the world sleeps around you? So, dim the lights, adjust your pillows, and let your breathing slow. Tonight's tale isn't about famous generals or great battles you learned about in school. No, this is about the nameless thousands who figured out how to wage war when the most advanced technology was a sharpened rock tied to a stick. These were your ancestors, and their ingenuity in organizing armies without writing a single instruction down will astound you. Their methods were brutal, yes, but also surprisingly sophisticated. And as you listen to their story unfold over the next while, you'll understand how humanity's capacity for both cooperation and conflict shaped the world you're safely resting in tonight. You stand at the edge of the forest as dawn breaks over the valley. Your tribe's scouts returned last night with urgent news. Strangers have been spotted 3 days' walk to the north, moving through your hunting grounds. Without written messages or maps to mark territories, your people rely on something far more immediate: the human memory and the spoken word. The elder who leads your band of 30 warriors doesn't need papyrus or parchment. Instead, he carries in his mind a detailed mental map of every stream, every distinctive rock formation, every sacred tree within a moon's journey from your settlement. You've been learning these landmarks since childhood, passed down through countless repetitions around the fire. The organization begins simply. Runners are sent to allied tribes, carrying not scrolls but memorized messages. Word-perfect recitations that must be delivered exactly as spoken. These messengers know every hidden path, every safe crossing, their feet having traced these routes since they could barely walk. Your warrior band operates on pure instinct and practiced routine. Everyone knows their role without being told. The strongest fighters naturally gravitate to the front, while the swift scouts fan out to the sides. There's no written military manual, no standardized formations. Instead, you move like a wolf pack, each member responding to subtle cues. A bird call that means danger, a specific whistle that signals gather, hand gestures visible through the trees that communicate complex instructions. Your weapons are simple but effective: spears with fire-hardened points, clubs weighted with stones, and the newest innovation, the at.or, a spear thrower that extends your range considerably. Each warrior crafted their own weapons, knows their weight and balance intimately, can use them in complete darkness if necessary. You watch as the tribe's memory keeper begins the ritual that precedes every major conflict. She's an old woman, perhaps 40 winters, ancient by your people's standards, and her role is crucial. Without writing, she serves as the living archive of every battle your tribe has fought, every alliance formed, every betrayal suffered. Her voice rises and falls in the darkness before dawn, reciting the genealogies of warriors, reminding each fighter of their ancestors' deeds. You hear your own grandfather's name mentioned, he who killed 3 enemies with a single spear thrust during the battle at the river crossing. The recitation isn't just ceremony, it's practical organization. Through these stories, she assigns roles based on hereditary strengths. The descendants of great scouts become scouts themselves. Those whose bloodlines produced mighty warriors take the front positions. It's a system refined over countless generations, encoding military strategy into oral tradition. Around you, the preparation continues with methodical precision. Women and children work alongside warriors, each knowing their task without instruction. Some gather specific plants for wound treatment, knowledge passed mouth to ear for thousands of years. Others prepare the war paint, mixing ochre with animal fat, each color and pattern carrying meaning that everyone understands instinctively. Red across the forehead means you've killed before. White dots on the cheeks indicate you're seeking vengeance for a fallen family member. The logistics of feeding 30 warriors on a potentially long campaign are handled without a single supply list. Each fighter carries a leather pouch with dried meat and crushed nuts, enough for 7 days. You all know how to forage, which plants are safe, where to find water. The knowledge lives in your bones, taught through endless repetition during childhood hunting trips. You follow your band as they move through the forest in perfect silence, a skill that no military academy could teach. Your feet find the soft spots between dried leaves automatically. Your body turns sideways to slip between branches without disturbing them. This synchronized movement isn't choreographed. It emerges from a lifetime of hunting together, of depending on each other's silence for survival. The communication system your people use would baffle modern generals. A crow's call from the lead scout means all clear. 2 short whistles signal stop and hide. The crack of a branch in a specific rhythm indicates enemy spotted, 5 or more. Every sound has meaning, every silence too. You've been trained since childhood to distinguish between the normal forest noise and the subtle wrongness that indicates human presence. Your battle formation develops organically as you move. Without any spoken commands, the strongest fighters drift to the outer edges, creating a protective shell around the younger, faster warriors who serve as your strike force. It's a formation that mirrors how wolf packs hunt, how rivers flow around obstacles, natural patterns that require no explanation. The absence of metal weapons doesn't mean you lack military technology. Each warrior carries a toolkit of specialized implements. Your primary spear for thrusting, a lighter throwing spear, a stone knife for close combat, and the club for crushing blows. Some carry bolas, 3 stones tied with sinew, for entangling enemies' legs. Others have mastered the sling, able to hurl stones with skull-cracking force at 50 paces. You pause at a stream to drink and notice how everyone spaces themselves exactly 1 spear length apart, without measuring. It's muscle memory, social instinct, and practical defense combined. Even this simple act of drinking water is militarized, half the group always watching, while the others drink. You remember the first time you learned about treaty making without written contracts. 2 tribes meet at a neutral ground, usually a distinctive landmark like a massive boulder or ancient tree that both groups consider sacred. Without paper to record agreements, your people developed elaborate rituals that burn the treaty terms into collective memory. Every adult member of both tribes must be present to witness the oath-taking. The leaders of each group recite the agreement 3 times, with specific hand gestures for each provision. They exchange symbolic items, perhaps a specially carved spear or a unique shell necklace, that serve as physical reminders of the promise. These objects become tribal treasures, their stories retold at every gathering, ensuring the agreement lives on in communal memory. But treaties fail, and when they do, organizing for war without written declarations requires its own protocols. Your tribe uses smoke signals during the day, not the simple enemy approaching signals you've seen in stories, but complex patterns. 1 fire means gather for council. 2 fires burning side by side indicates prepare for defensive action. 3 fires in a triangle formation signals, "We march to war at sunset." The response to these signals is immediate and practiced. You've participated in drills since childhood, where the smoke goes up and everyone must be armed and assembled before the sun moves the width of 2 fingers across the sky. There's no confusion, no need for clarification. Everyone knows their rally point, their position in the march, their role in the coming conflict. Your current mission emerged from such a gathering 3 days ago. The smoke signals brought 5 allied tribes together, nearly 200 warriors in total. The largest force your people have assembled in living memory. You participate in what your people call the joining ritual, the process by which multiple tribes coordinate their warriors without a unified command structure. Each tribe maintains its own leadership, but they must work together seamlessly. The solution is elegant in its simplicity. Warriors from different tribes are paired as battle brothers, each responsible for the other's survival. You're matched with a warrior from the river people, a tribe your grandfather fought against, but who are now allies against the common threat. Your battle brother speaks a different dialect, worships different spirits, uses different combat techniques. Yet within hours you've developed a wordless understanding. He fights with a heavy club, while you prefer the spear, a natural complement. You learn each other's breathing patterns, movement styles, the subtle tensing that precedes an attack. This pairing system creates an instant communication network across tribal lines. The night before battle, the combined force performs a synchronized war dance. It's not entertainment, it's a practical exercise in coordination. Each tribe contributes movements from their own traditional dances, creating a new hybrid rhythm that everyone must learn. As you stamp and whirl with 200 others, muscle memory embeds the collective timing that tomorrow's battle will require. The dance teaches spacing, synchronized movement, and most importantly, it creates a shared emotional state that transcends tribal boundaries. The logistics of this joint operation would seem impossible without modern planning tools, yet each tribe brings specific resources, predetermined by ancient precedent. The forest people, your tribe, provide scouts and spears. The river people bring their superior stone axes and knowledge of water crossings. The mountain tribe contributes their unmatched skill with slings and defensive positioning. Everyone knows their contribution without negotiation or written agreements. You learn the complexities of night operations when writing orders is impossible and darkness makes visual signals useless. Your people have developed an intricate system of touch communication. A hand on the shoulder means stop. 2 taps indicate danger ahead. A squeeze followed by pointing pressure shows direction. This tactile language passes silently down the line of warriors, each one repeating the signal to the next. Tonight's raid will test this system to its limits. The plan, developed without a single diagram or written note, exists perfectly in every warrior's mind through repetition and demonstration. During the day, your leaders used a sandbox. Yes, your ancestors invented the sand table 20,000 years before military academies would claim it. Using twigs for trees, pebbles for enemy positions, and furrows for rivers, they showed the attack plan repeatedly until even the slowest warrior could recreate it, blindfolded. The scent markers your scouts left guide you through the darkness. Different combinations of crushed herbs rubbed on trees create an olfactory map. Pine needles mixed with mint means correct path. Wild garlic indicates danger zone. The bitter smell of crushed walnut leaves signals enemy nearby. Your nose becomes as important as your eyes, following a trail invisible to anyone who doesn't know the code. You marvel at how your supposedly primitive ancestors solved problems that would challenge modern armies. Without night vision goggles, they learned to use peripheral vision in darkness. Without radios, they developed sound disciplines so strict that a warrior would rather die than cry out and alert enemies. Without GPS, they navigated by star patterns memorized since childhood. Stories of heroes mapped onto constellations, serving as both entertainment and education. You witness how your people manage supplies for an extended campaign, without quartermaster records or supply depot inventories. Each warrior becomes a self-contained survival unit, but the collective resources are managed through an ingenious system of reciprocal obligations. Every fighter owes and is owed specific support from others, creating a web of interdependence that ensures no one goes without essentials. The medicine woman accompanying your force carries the tribe's healing knowledge in her memory. Thousands of plant combinations, preparation methods, and dosages that would fill modern medical textbooks. She teaches as she treats, ensuring her knowledge spreads through the force. When she tends your friend's infected wound with a poultice of specific mosses and tree bark, she has 3 young warriors watch and repeat the process, creating redundancy and critical knowledge. Your force practices what later armies would call living off the land, but with a sophistication born from millennia of experience. Each warrior knows 17 different edible plants, can identify them by touch in complete darkness, understands their seasonal availability and where they're most likely to grow. The group moves through the forest like a harvesting machine, each person grabbing specific items as they pass. This one collects medicinal leaves, that one gathers edible roots, another fills water gourds at every stream. The distribution system works without central control. Evening camps see automatic sharing circles form. Those who found extra food place it in the center. Those who need more take it. No one hoards because everyone knows that tomorrow they might be the one needing help. The social pressure of this system is intense. A selfish warrior finds themselves gradually isolated, their battle-brother partnerships dissolved, their position in formations compromised. You experience the morning when everything goes wrong, teaching you how Stone Age armies handled battlefield chaos without radios or written contingency plans. The enemy attacked before dawn, not where expected, and half your force is scattered. In modern warfare, this would require frantic radio calls and revised orders. Your people handle it through what they call water thinking, flowing around obstacles, finding new paths, reforming naturally like droplets joining into streams. The response is immediate and instinctive. 3 sharp whistles, the universal signal for scatter and regroup, echo through the forest. Every warrior knows the fallback positions, not from maps, but from childhood games, where you practiced this exact scenario. The secondary gathering point is the distinctive rock formation that looks like a sleeping bear, a landmark burned into everyone's mental geography. You move through the chaos using the 5 system. Warriors instinctively form groups of 5, each group self-sufficient, but able to combine quickly with others. It's based on the human hand, the most basic counting tool. 5 warriors can defend against a larger force, move quietly, and make quick decisions. 5 groups of 5 make a formidable force of 25, the mathematics of war at its most fundamental. Your scattered force communicates through animal calls that enemies won't recognize as human. The morning dove's call, repeated 3 times, means I'm here and safe. A jay's harsh cry indicates enemy in sight. The complex morning birdsong of the forest becomes your encrypted communication network. Each warrior knows perhaps 20 calls perfectly, can produce them convincingly, and more importantly, can distinguish them from actual birds. Within an hour, your force has reformed, adapted to the ambush, and prepared a counterattack, all without a single written order or electronic communication. You participate in the counter-ambush your leaders organize, without any written battle plans or tactical manuals. The strategy emerges from collective memory of similar situations, stories told around fires for generations. Your grandfather faced an ambush at this very spot 20 winters ago. His solution, passed down through oral tradition, becomes your template. But it's not rigid adherence to the past. Your leaders adapt the old wisdom to current reality. The enemy expects you to flee or charge. Instead, you execute what your people call the spider web, a tactic impossible to diagram, but simple to demonstrate. Warriors spread out in concentric circles, each maintaining visual contact with at least 2 others. The formation looks chaotic, but has its own logic. Like a web, damage to one section doesn't destroy the whole. And like a spider, sensing vibrations, the formation detects enemy movement from any direction. Communication across this spread formation relies on reflected sunlight from polished stone discs each warrior carries. Not mirrors in the modern sense, but flat stones rubbed with sand until they gleam. A flash means enemy spotted. 2 flashes indicate attack imminent. Continuous flashing signals retreat to next position. It's a heliograph system that predates recorded history. The psychological warfare component needs no technology at all. Your force begins the death chant, a low, rhythmic sound that builds gradually. 200 throats creating a sound that seems to come from the earth itself. The enemy, already shaken from their failed ambush, faces an opponent that seems supernatural. Some break and run. Your warriors don't need orders to know who should pursue and who should hold position. The fastest runners automatically give chase. The strongest fighters maintain the web. The wounded gather at the center. It's organism-level intelligence, each part knowing its function without central command. You observe how your people conduct what modern military theorists would call intelligence gathering, without writing a single report. The information network is entirely human, a web of relationships and memories that spans vast territories. Every trader, every marriage between tribes, every wandering storyteller becomes a node in this network, carrying news and observations in their heads. Your tribe's intelligence system starts with children. Young ones playing near the edges of territory aren't just having fun. They're the early warning system. They know every adult face in the region, can spot a stranger instantly. When unknown warriors appear, children vanish into the forest, their flight patterns themselves a message. One child running means stranger spotted. Multiple children scattering indicates armed group approaching. The speed and direction of their flight tells watching adults everything they need to know. The formal intelligence gathering involves specialists you call far walkers, individuals who travel constantly between allied tribes, memorizing everything they see and hear. Your current far walker can recall conversations word perfect from 6 moons ago, describe the exact number of warriors in a distant tribe, and map the movement patterns of enemy groups across seasons. His memory palace isn't a building, but the landscape itself. Each piece of information tied to a specific location he's visited. Your force's current mission emerged from intelligence gathered this way. 3 different far walkers reported the same pattern. Strangers from beyond the northern mountains moving south, testing boundaries, counting warriors. The information synthesis happened not in a headquarters tent, but around a fire, where elders compared the 3 accounts, finding patterns and inconsistencies, building a picture of enemy intentions from fragments of observation. Without written analysis, they reached the same conclusion any modern intelligence service would. These aren't raids, but reconnaissance for a larger invasion. You learn how your ancestors conducted siege warfare without engineering manuals or mathematical calculations. The knowledge lives in the master builders, older warriors who survived enough battles to understand how to bring down defensive positions. They can look at a wooden palisade and know exactly where to strike, not from written formulas, but from watching dozens of walls fall or stand. Their expertise passes through demonstration and muscle memory, rather than blueprints. The current enemy occupies a hilltop position, fortified with stone walls and wooden stakes. Your force's approach to this challenge would seem impossible without written plans, yet the solution emerges organically. Teams form based on specialized skills: the fire carriers who know how to keep flames alive during rain, the diggers who can tunnel under walls, the stone throwers whose accuracy with slings can clear defenders from ramparts. Your role involves the ram team. The battering ram itself is constructed on site from materials at hand: the trunk of a fallen oak, stones for weight, leather strips for handholds. No measurements are taken, no calculations made, yet the resulting tool is perfectly balanced. The team leader positions people by physical feel, adjusting spacing until the weight distribution is right. You know you're correctly placed when the ram feels like an extension of your own body. The coordination required for effective ramming is achieved through work songs. The rhythm synchronizes everyone's effort, turning 20 individuals into a single striking force. These songs aren't just for timing, they encode tactical knowledge. The verse about the oak that wouldn't fall teaches patience and persistence. The chorus about striking where the wood is weakest reminds you to target joints and supports. Every song is a lesson, every rhythm a tactical instruction. You experience the complexity of maintaining discipline without written codes of conduct or military police. Social pressure and shame serve as more powerful motivators than any written law could be. Every warrior knows that cowardice or betrayal means not just personal disgrace, but the cursing of their entire lineage. Children yet unborn will carry the shame of a warrior who breaks formation and flees. This invisible prison of honor is stronger than iron bars. The enforcement system works through collective memory and public ritual. When a young warrior shows exceptional bravery, the memory keeper adds a verse to his family's song. When someone fails in their duty, silence replaces their name in the tribal recitation. You've seen grown warriors weep at having their deeds omitted from the evening's storytelling. A punishment worse than physical pain. Your current force maintains cohesion through what you call the watching. Every warrior is observed by multiple others, not in suspicion, but in mutual protection. Your battle brother watches your back, literally and figuratively. If you show signs of breaking, he'll steady you. If you excel, he'll ensure it's remembered. This web of observation means nothing goes unnoticed, no deed unremarked. The positive reinforcement is equally powerful. Acts of valor are rewarded immediately and publicly. After yesterday's skirmish, a young warrior who saved 3 companions received a new name on the spot. 3 Lives Shield. No ceremony needed, no paperwork filed. The elder simply announced it, and from that moment forward, his old name ceased to exist. He'll carry that honor forever, and his children will inherit the story. These naming ceremonies serve multiple purposes. They reward bravery, create role models, and most importantly, they encode tactical lessons into personal narratives that will be remembered for generations. You discover how your people manage the aftermath of battle. Without medical corps or field hospitals, The treatment of wounded warriors follows protocols refined over millennia, transmitted through demonstration rather than medical texts. Every adult knows basic wound care, how to stop bleeding with pressure and packed moss, how to identify the infections that kill more warriors than enemy spears, how to set broken bones, using branch splints and leather wraps. The triage system operates on instinct and experience. Without discussing it, healers move first to those making no sound, the dangerously wounded who've passed beyond pain. The screamers can wait. Their noise indicates strength remaining. This brutal mathematics of survival needs no written guidelines. Everyone understands that saving one warrior who can fight tomorrow is worth more than comforting 3 who'll never lift a spear again. Your friend lies among the wounded, a deep gash across his ribs from an enemy axe. The medicine woman doesn't need to consult any texts. She knows from the wound's location, depth, and his breathing pattern exactly what's damaged inside. Her treatment combines practical surgery with ritual healing. She sews the wound with sinew while chanting the healing songs, applies herbal poultices while calling out on the spirits, sets up a recovery position based on ancient wisdom about body energy flow. The transport of wounded requires no ambulances or stretchers. Your people developed carry techniques that distribute weight efficiently across multiple bearers. The living cradle involves 4 warriors interlocking their arms to create a stable platform. They can maintain this formation for hours, rotating positions without stopping, keeping the wounded warrior level even over rough terrain. The knowledge of who can be moved and who must remain stationary exists in the collective experience of the group. You witness how victory is processed and remembered without written records or history books. The battle ended this morning, and already the memory keepers are at work, transforming raw experience into structured narrative that will survive millennia. They interview every warrior while memories are fresh, not with papyrus and ink, but through ritualized questioning that embeds responses into collective memory. Each warrior must recount their actions 3 times to 3 different elders, ensuring accuracy through repetition. The physical evidence of battle becomes teaching tools. Captured weapons are studied intensely, their construction methods memorized, their weaknesses identified. Your people practice reverse engineering without calling it that. A young warrior dismantles an enemy spear thrower, understanding its superior range, then builds 5 copies from memory. Within days, your entire force will have upgraded their equipment, the innovation spreading through observation and imitation rather than written instructions. The distribution of spoils follows ancient protocols that ensure fairness without written laws. Those who struck first receive first choice. Those who protected others get double shares. The families of the fallen inherit what their warriors would have claimed. It's a complex system that everyone knows by heart, preventing disputes that could fracture the alliance. The victory dance tonight serves as more than celebration. It's a mnemonic device, encoding the battle's key moments into physical movement. The part where you leap and spin represents the flanking maneuver. The synchronized stamping recreates the final charge. Future generations will learn military tactics through dance, their bodies remembering what no book could teach. You realize that your ancestors' oral tradition isn't inferior to written history. It's simply different, engaging multiple senses and entire communities in the act of remembering. You understand now how your people prepare for winter campaigns without meteorological data or written weather predictions. The weather readers among your tribe possess knowledge accumulated across centuries, passed from grandmother to grandchild through patient observation. They read signs invisible to untrained eyes: the thickness of squirrel fur, the height of bird nests, the way morning mist clings to valleys. Each observation is a data point in an unwritten algorithm that predicts weather weeks in advance. Your force must decide whether to pursue the retreating enemy into the mountains before snow makes passage impossible. The weather reader examines spiderwebs at dawn, notes the direction of cloud movement at different altitudes, tastes the wind for moisture content. She doesn't consult charts or barometers, but declares with certainty, 7 days until the deep snow, maybe 8, not 9. Her accuracy rate would shame modern forecasters. The preparation for cold weather combat requires no supply requisitions or equipment lists. Each warrior knows exactly what's needed: the specific furs that trap heat best, how to waterproof leather with rendered fat, which plants prevent frostbite when rubbed on exposed skin. This knowledge is embedded in childhood memories of elders showing, not telling, how to survive winter's bite. Your tribe's winter warfare tactics evolved from hunting practices. Moving through snow silently requires the same techniques used to stalk winter deer. The formations that conserve heat while maintaining combat readiness mirror wolf pack behavior in blizzards. Even the timing of attacks, dawn, when enemies are stiffest from cold, comes from predator wisdom rather than military manuals. The logistical challenge of feeding warriors when the land offers nothing is solved through preserved foods prepared months in advance, their locations cached along potential routes, marked by signs only your people recognize. You participate in what your people call the teaching war, the process by which young warriors learn combat without written training manuals or formal military academies. Today's mock battle involves 50 youth from allied tribes, supervised by veterans who've survived dozens of real conflicts. The weapons are blunted, the strikes pulled, but the lessons are real. Pain is the teacher that no book could replace. A mistimed block means bruised ribs that remind you for weeks about keeping your guard up. The training ground is the forest itself, not some artificial parade ground. You learn to fight on slopes, in mud, through streams, around trees. Every possible combat environment becomes familiar through repetition. Your muscles memorize the different footwork needed for each terrain. Your eyes automatically scan for the roots that trip, the branches that blind, the rocks that can become weapons or obstacles. The teaching method relies on immediate correction through physical adjustment. When your spear thrust lacks power, a veteran doesn't explain biomechanics. He positions your body correctly, makes you repeat the motion until it feels natural. When your defensive stance is wrong, you learn by being knocked down repeatedly until your body finds the right balance automatically. The psychological preparation happens through storytelling. Veterans share not just their victories, but their fears, their mistakes, their moments of panic. You learn that courage isn't the absence of fear, but action despite it. These stories, told in darkness when defenses are down, prepare young minds for the chaos they'll face. They normalize the confusion, the terror, the strange clarity that comes in mortal danger. By the day's end, covered in bruises and mud, you understand warfare in your bones rather than your brain. You experience the way alliances shift and reform without written treaties or diplomatic correspondence. A delegation from the mountain tribe arrives at your camp, their intentions unclear. They were enemies 2 seasons ago, neutral last season, and now seek alliance against the northern invaders. The negotiation that follows would baffle modern diplomats accustomed to written proposals and formal protocols. The process begins with gift exchange, but these aren't mere tokens. Each gift carries encoded meaning. The mountain tribe offers 3 perfectly matched spear points, indicating they come as equals, not supplicants. Your leaders respond with a bear pelt, showing strength, but also warmth, protection. The gifts are their own language, speaking what words might make too blunt. The actual negotiation happens through parallel storytelling. The mountain tribe elder tells a long tale about wolves who united to fight a bear. Your elder responds with a story about temporary alliance between eagle and snake against a common threat. Neither directly mentions the current situation, but everyone understands the proposals being made, the conditions being set, the concerns being raised. The agreement reached needs no signing ceremony. Instead, the 2 tribes engage in a joint hunt. The practical cooperation of tracking, killing, and sharing a deer does more to cement the alliance than any treaty could. Working together reveals character, builds trust, creates the muscle memory of cooperation. Warriors who've pulled together on the same rope hauling heavy game are more likely to stand together in battle. The terms of alliance are embedded in the hunting success. The mountain tribe demonstrated their superior tracking. Your people showed strength in the kill. The equal division of meat establishes military parity. Every future joint action will reference this hunt. You learn how your people conduct long-range reconnaissance without maps, compasses, or communication equipment. The scouts who venture deep into enemy territory for weeks at a time carry everything they need in their minds. Mental maps stretching hundreds of miles, survival skills for every ecosystem, and most importantly, the ability to observe and remember everything significant. Your training as a scout began in childhood with memory games. Elders would arrange stones in patterns, tell you to observe, then cover them. You had to recreate the pattern perfectly. Now, you can glance at an enemy camp and memorize the position of every shelter, every guard post, every supply cache. The human brain, properly trained, surpasses any notebook. The navigation system scouts use combines multiple references: sun position, star patterns, wind directions, the flow of rivers, the flight paths of migrating birds. But the master skill is reading the landscape itself. Every valley has a personality, every ridgeline a signature. Scouts learn to recognize the subtle differences in rock formations, tree types, soil colors that indicate location as surely as any GPS coordinate. The communication challenge of reporting back without writing is solved through a standardized reporting format, memorized by every scout. You always report in the same order. Enemy numbers first, their weapons second, their movement patterns third, their apparent intentions fourth, unusual observations fifth. This structure ensures nothing important is forgotten, even after weeks of exhausting travel. The physical conditioning required is extreme. Scouts must be able to run for entire days, covering distances that would kill normal warriors. You train by running with water in your mouth, learning breath control. You practice moving silently with bells tied to your clothing. If they ring, you start over. You discover how your people manage what modern militaries call force multiplication, without any written doctrine or tactical manuals. The principle is simple but profound. Make the enemy believe you are stronger than reality. This deception requires no Hollywood special effects, just deep understanding of human perception and fear. The technique starts with selective visibility. Your force of 200 warriors appears to be thousands, Through coordinated movement, groups circle through clearings where enemies can observe, changing their appearance slightly each time. Different paint patterns, altered hairstyles, carrying different weapons. The same 50 warriors become 5 different warbands in enemy perception. Sound warfare amplifies this illusion. Your people developed acoustic techniques that make their war cries echo and re-echo through valleys. Hollow logs become amplifiers. Cave mouths are used as resonance chambers. 100 voices become the roar of 1,000. The enemy's scouts report being surrounded by countless warriors, when actually facing a fraction of that number. The psychological manipulation extends to false camps. Your people build extra fires at night, far more than needed for warmth or cooking. Decoy shelters, constructed from branches and hides, suggest a massive army. Warriors take turns moving between camps, maintaining activity at all sites. From a distance, especially in darkness, the illusion is complete. The timing of revelation is crucial. Just when enemies commit to defending against your massive force from one direction, your actual warriors attack from another. The confusion and panic caused by this misdirection often wins battles before real fighting begins. Enemy morale collapses when they realize they've been deceived, making them question everything they think they know. This strategic deception, refined over millennia, proves that warfare is as much about controlling minds as bodies. You understand now how your people conduct what would later be called special operations, without any formal special forces training or written operational procedures. These elite warriors, known as shadow walkers, are selected through trials that test not just physical capability, but mental resilience and creative problem-solving. The selection process would seem brutal to modern eyes, but creates warriors of extraordinary capability. The training happens in complete isolation. Selected warriors spend months alone in the wilderness, learning to depend entirely on themselves. They must survive, navigate, and complete specific tasks without any human contact. This isolation breaks down normal social conditioning, creating individuals who can operate outside the tribal structure when necessary. You watch shadow walkers prepare for tonight's mission, infiltrating the enemy camp to steal their sacred war bundle, demoralizing them before tomorrow's battle. The preparation is meticulous, despite having no written checklist. Each warrior coats their body with a mixture of mud and crushed plants that masks human scent. They oil every piece of equipment to prevent any sound. They fast for 2 days before missions, believing hunger sharpens senses and empty stomachs make less noise. The infiltration techniques are passed down through demonstration by retired shadow walkers, their bodies too old for missions, but minds still sharp with accumulated knowledge. They teach through touch in complete darkness, showing hand placement for silent climbing, foot positioning for avoiding twigs, breathing patterns that calm the heartbeat to near stillness. The psychological training is equally intense. Shadow walkers learn to think like their prey, to predict enemy behavior by understanding their fears and assumptions. They study captured enemies, not to torture, but to understand how they sleep, what makes them nervous, their patterns of vigilance and inattention. You witness how your people manage strategic retreats without written evacuation plans or modern communication systems. The decision to withdraw isn't seen as defeat, but as water finding a new path when blocked. Your elders have a saying: the wise warrior wins by not fighting when fighting means losing. This philosophy, embedded in cultural memory rather than military textbooks, saves more lives than any armor could. The retreat signal spreads through the force without a single shouted order. A specific pattern of bird calls, repeated 3 times, tells everyone to begin the planned withdrawal. But this isn't chaotic flight. Every warrior knows their role in the retreat hierarchy. The fastest runners go first, not from cowardice, but to prepare the fallback position. The strongest fighters form the rearguard, their sacrifice honored in songs for generations. Your position in the middle group means protecting the wounded and elderly warriors. The carry techniques for rapid evacuation were practiced throughout your childhood. You can lift an unconscious warrior across your shoulders and run for miles. The weight distribution learned through years of carrying deer from hunts. The wounded who can walk are paired with supporters, moving as single units that maintain combat effectiveness, even while withdrawing. The route selection happens through collective knowledge. Every warrior knows 3 different paths back to safe territory. When the primary path is blocked, the shift to alternatives happens seamlessly. Scout signals, smoke by day, specific fire patterns by night, indicate which routes remain clear. The enemy pursues, but your people prepared for this. False trails lead into box canyons. Deliberately weakened tree branches fall when enemies pass beneath. Natural choke points become killing grounds, where small groups of volunteers buy time for the main force. These volunteers know their likely fate, but compete for the honor. You experience how your people adapt their warfare to different seasons, without written tactical manuals that adjust for weather conditions. Each season brings its own opportunities and challenges, and your ancestors developed specific combat techniques for each, passing them down through seasonal training exercises that coincide with the actual conditions. Spring warfare, which you're practicing now, focuses on mobility and surprise. The muddy ground that slows heavily equipped enemies becomes your advantage. Your warriors train to fight barefoot in mud, toes gripping where boots would slip. The swollen streams that enemies fear to cross become your highways. Your people swim in snowmelt rivers from childhood, building immunity to cold water that would shock others into helplessness. The seasonal knowledge extends to weapons. Spring's wet conditions affect bowstrings and leather. Your people know exactly how to adjust tension, how to keep critical materials dry using fish bladders as waterproof containers. The hafting on spears and axes must be rewrapped daily as wood swells and shrinks. This maintenance isn't written in manuals but performed as automatically as breathing. Spring also means specific food sources are available. Your force forages as it moves, knowing exactly which plants emerge first from winter's grip. The tender shoots that enemies overlook provide nutrition that keeps your warriors strong, while opponents weaken on preserved rations. This seasonal diet isn't just survival, it's strategic advantage. The mating seasons of animals factor into your tactics. Spring's territorial battles among deer and elk provide cover noise for your movements. Nesting birds become your alarm system. You know which species nest where and when their disturbance means human presence. Your enemies, ignorant of these patterns, are betrayed by nature itself, while you move in harmony with it. You experience how your people adapt their warfare to different seasons, without written tactical manuals that adjust for weather conditions. Each season brings its own opportunities and challenges, and your ancestors developed specific combat techniques for each, passing them down through seasonal training exercises that coincide with the actual conditions. Spring warfare, which you're practicing now, focuses on mobility and surprise. The muddy ground that slows heavily equipped enemies becomes your advantage. Your warriors train to fight barefoot in mud, toes gripping where boots would slip. The swollen streams that enemies fear to cross become your highways. Your people swim in snowmelt rivers from childhood, building immunity to cold water that would shock others into helplessness. The seasonal knowledge extends to weapons. Spring's wet conditions affect bowstrings and leather. Your people know exactly how to adjust tension, how to keep critical materials dry, using fish bladders as waterproof containers. The hafting on spears and axes must be rewrapped daily, as wood swells and shrinks. This maintenance isn't written in manuals, but performed as automatically as breathing. Spring also means specific food sources are available. Your force forages as it moves, knowing exactly which plants emerge first from winter's grip. The tender shoots that enemies overlook provide nutrition that keeps your warriors strong, while opponents weaken on preserved rations. This seasonal diet isn't just survival, it's strategic advantage. The mating seasons of animals factor into your tactics. Spring's territorial battles among deer and elk provide cover noise for your movements. Nesting birds become your alarm system. You know which species nest where, and when their disturbance means human presence. Your enemies, ignorant of these patterns, are betrayed by nature itself, while you move in harmony with it. You learn how your people conduct river crossings during combat operations without engineers or equipment. Rivers that would stop modern armies without bridges become tactical advantages for your force. The knowledge of water warfare is ancient, learned from watching otters and beavers, refined through generations of necessity. Every warrior since childhood practices combat swimming while carrying weapons, but the real expertise lies with the river guides. The current guide can read water like others read faces. She sees the underwater rocks from surface ripples, identifies the false shallows that would trap enemies, knows where currents will exhaust swimmers and where eddies provide rest. This knowledge can't be mapped. Rivers change with seasons, rainfall, snowmelt. It must be read fresh each time. The crossing technique your force employs would seem impossible without modern equipment. Warriors link arms in chains, the strongest swimmers on the upstream side breaking the current. Equipment floats on rafts of inflated animal bladders, pushed by swimmers. The entire force crosses in waves, each group providing security for the next. The timing is crucial. Dawn, when mist obscures you from enemy eyes, but light is sufficient to read the water. Your enemies expect rivers to slow you down, to funnel you to bridge points where they can ambush. Instead, you cross where they think impossible. While they guard the fords, you appear behind them, dripping and dangerous. The psychological impact of warriors emerging from impassable rivers often breaks enemy morale before fighting begins. The river combat techniques are equally sophisticated. Your people fight while treading water, use the current as a weapon to unbalance opponents, know how to drown enemies silently. Some warriors specialize in underwater attacks, holding their breath for impossible lengths, pulling enemies down into the murky depths. You understand the complexity of feeding an army without supply lines or preserved foods when the land itself becomes your quartermaster. Your force of 200 warriors consumes what a small village would eat, yet leaves no trace of their passage. This isn't just foraging, it's strategic resource management refined over millennia, embedded in cultural practices rather than written logistics manuals. The process starts with the advanced food scouts, specialists who range ahead identifying resources. They know the calorie requirements of warriors in combat, can estimate how many fighters a grove of nut trees can sustain, understand the protein needs that separate survival from combat effectiveness. Their mental calculations, performed instantly without mathematical training, would impress modern nutritionists. Your role today involves processing a deer the hunters brought down. But this isn't simple butchering. Every part has a purpose, assigned by ancient precedent. The liver goes to wounded warriors for strength, the heart to tomorrow's lead scouts for courage. The marrow, extracted with precise stone strikes, becomes energy-dense travel food. The hide will become shelter, the sinews thread, the bones tools. Nothing is waste. The gathering continues as you march. Warriors automatically harvest while moving. A handful of berries here, edible roots there, mushrooms that only your people recognize as safe. By evening, these individual collections become communal meals. The pooling happens without discussion, everyone contributing their findings to common cookfires. The cooking itself is tactical. Fires are kept small, smokeless, positioned where terrain masks their light. The food preparation methods. Everything cut small for quick cooking, minimal seasoning to avoid distinctive smells. Evolved from military necessity. Your enemies, dependent on supply trains, are anchored to predictable routes. Your force flows freely, sustained by the land itself. You experience the morning your force encounters an enemy using tactics you've never seen before. Mounted warriors, riders on horses your people have only heard about in stories from distant lands. The shock of facing cavalry without any written tactical manuals on counter-cavalry warfare would paralyze a modern army. Your people adapt instantly, their response emerging from deep, practical wisdom rather than studied doctrine. The immediate reaction comes from hunting experience. Horses are prey animals, despite their riders. Your warriors instinctively spread out, denying the cavalry their greatest advantage, the concentrated charge. They position themselves among trees where horses can't maneuver, using terrain as their defense. The psychological warfare begins immediately. Your people produce predator sounds, perfect imitations of howling like a wolf. Wolf howls, growling like a bear roars, the screaming of mountain cats. The horses, regardless of training, respond with ancestral fear. Some rear, others shy sideways, their riders fighting for control. The counter-tactics develop in real time. Warriors work in pairs. One distracts the rider while another targets the horse's legs with spears. It's brutal, but effective. A horse with damaged legs is worse than useless to its rider. Your slingers discover they can cause chaos by targeting horses' heads with small stones. Not killing, but panicking them. Within the first hour of combat, your force has developed and communicated an entirely new fighting system. Young runners carry observations between groups. Horses fear the marsh. They can't turn quickly left. Strike when they rear. This rapid, tactical evolution happens without committees or planning sessions, just practical warriors solving immediate problems. By midday, what began as a rout has become a stalemate. The enemy cavalry, expecting easy victory against primitive foot warriors, faces opponents who've already mastered counter-cavalry tactics through pure adaptive intelligence. You participate in the development of what your descendants will call guerrilla warfare, though your people simply call it fighting like the forest. Without any written doctrine on asymmetric warfare, your smaller force must defeat a larger, better-equipped enemy through intelligence and patience, rather than strength. The strategy emerges from collective discussion around the fire, where even the youngest warrior's observation is heard. The approach is elegantly simple. Never fight where the enemy is strong. Always attack where they're weak. Your force splits into groups of 10, each operating independently, but toward a common goal. There's no central command to capture, no single plan to discover. Each group knows the general objective: weaken the enemy until they leave. But tactics are decided locally, immediately, based on opportunity. The harassment begins at dawn. One group attacks the enemy's water carriers. Another steals their food supplies. A third wounds their sentries with slings from beyond spear range. No attack lasts more than moments. By the time the enemy responds, your warriors have melted back into the forest they know intimately. The psychological impact accumulates faster than physical casualties. The enemy can't sleep. Strange noises keep them awake. They can't relax. Warriors might be watching from any tree. They can't trust their perimeter. Your people slip through gaps they don't know exist. The fear of the unseen becomes more powerful than any visible army. Your force sustains this pressure for days without pitched battle. The enemy, trained for conventional warfare, doesn't know how to respond. Their formations are useless against an enemy that won't stand and fight. Their superior weapons can't strike shadows. Their numerical advantage means nothing when they can't bring it to bear. You witness how your people manage battlefield medicine without antibiotics, surgery, or even basic understanding of germs. Yet their treatment methods, refined across millennia, achieve survival rates that would surprise modern medicine. The healers work with what they have: plants, prayers, and profound practical experience with trauma. The medicine woman treating your wounded shoulder doesn't know about infection in microscopic terms, but she knows the angry spirits that turn wounds red and hot. Her treatment protocol would be recognized by modern doctors: cleaning wounds with boiled water, applying honey, a natural antibiotic, using moldy bread on deep cuts, accidentally discovering penicillin thousands of years before Fleming. The pain management techniques involve no morphine, but achieve remarkable results. Wounded warriors chew willow bark, containing aspirin's active ingredient. They enter trance states through drumming and chanting, their minds disconnecting from pain signals. Pressure points, learned from generations of observation, provide relief without drugs. Some warriors barely flinch during treatment that should be agonizing. The rehabilitation process begins immediately. Your people discovered that movement prevents the stiffness that can permanently cripple warriors. Wounded fighters perform specific exercises, patterns developed from watching how injured animals instinctively move to promote healing. The knowledge is empirical, not theoretical, but it works. The psychological component of healing is fully integrated. Warriors with similar wounds are grouped together, their shared experience preventing the isolation that delays recovery. Stories of ancestors who survived worse injuries are told repeatedly. The wounded warrior's role shifts from fighter to teacher, maintaining their value to the tribe. This prevents the depression that modern medicine recognizes as healing's greatest enemy. The entire tribe participates in healing rituals, their collective belief creating placebo effects that measurably improve outcomes. You understand how your people coordinate multi-tribal offensives across vast distances without any communication technology beyond human runners. The system that emerges is both simple and sophisticated. A network of relay runners who can cover impossible distances, carrying messages encoded in memorized verses that preserve perfect accuracy across hundreds of miles. The runners are specialists from childhood, their bodies shaped by constant movement. They can maintain a steady pace for entire days, eating and drinking while moving, sleeping in short bursts without breaking rhythm. Their feet, hardened beyond leather, feel no pain from stones or thorns. Their minds can hold complex messages perfectly, the information encoded in song rhythms that make forgetting impossible. Your current offensive involves 5 tribes attacking simultaneously, despite being days apart. The coordination method relies on natural timing that needs no clocks. The attack begins when the moon is fullest, a moment every tribe can identify precisely. Secondary timing uses biological markers. When specific flowers bloom, when certain birds begin migration, when the morning star reaches a particular position. The battle plan exists not in written orders, but in a shared song taught to every participant. Each verse describes a different tribe's role. The chorus, repeated between verses, reinforces the timing. Warriors who've never met know exactly what their distant allies will do, because they're all singing the same strategic song. The flexibility within this rigid structure is remarkable. Each tribe maintains tactical freedom while following strategic imperatives. If the river people can't ford due to flooding, they know to wait for the next timing marker. If the mountain tribe finds an opportunity to attack earlier, they trust others will adapt. This trust, built through generations of cooperation, enables coordination that modern armies struggle to achieve even with radios. You experience the transformation of defeat into wisdom, without written after-action reports or lessons learned documents. Your force's failed attack yesterday becomes today's education. The knowledge extracted and embedded through ritual and repetition rather than written analysis. The process ensures that your people's descendants won't repeat these mistakes, even centuries from now. The examination begins at dawn with what you call the telling. Every survivor must recount their experience to the assembled group. No detail is too small, no observation insignificant. The young warrior who noticed enemy archers positioning differently than expected speaks. The veteran who felt something wrong but couldn't articulate it shares his unease. Each perspective adds to the collective understanding. Your leaders don't dominate this process, they listen. The medicine woman's observation about unusual enemy movements proves more valuable than the war chief's tactical analysis. A child who watched from the trees notices patterns that experienced warriors missed. This democratic extraction of lessons would seem chaotic to military academies, yet it captures nuances that formal debriefs miss. The lessons are immediately encoded into memory through physical recreation. Warriors use stones and sticks to rebuild the battle, moving pieces to show what happened. Then they demonstrate what should have happened. This physical rehearsal embeds the lessons deeper than any manual could. Young warriors walk through the corrected movements, their muscles learning what their minds might forget. The emotional processing happens simultaneously. Warriors cry for the fallen without shame, their grief witnessed and shared. Stories of the dead are told, their mistakes honored as teachings rather than failures. This emotional integration prevents the trauma that can freeze warriors in future battles, turning pain into power. The defeat becomes a gift to future generations. You learn the intricate diplomacy of prisoner exchange without written agreements or neutral intermediaries. The process that unfolds over 3 days would challenge modern negotiators, yet your people manage it through rituals and reciprocal honor systems refined since time immemorial. The mere fact that both sides take prisoners, rather than automatically killing enemies, shows a sophisticated understanding that today's enemy might be tomorrow's ally. The negotiation begins with the showing. Both sides display their prisoners at visible distance, allowing confirmation of life and condition. Your captured warriors stand on one hillside, theirs on another. No words are exchanged, but messages are clear. The prisoners' treatment is visible in their posture, their wounds, their apparent health. This visual assessment establishes the baseline for negotiation. The exchange ratio isn't 1-for-1. Your side holds a war chief's son. His value equals 3 common warriors. They have your tribe's best tracker. Her knowledge is worth 2 fighters. These valuations aren't written, but understood through cultural consensus. The negotiation happens through intermediary items. Carved sticks passed between camps, each notch and mark conveying proposals and counter-proposals that everyone can read. The actual exchange is a masterpiece of mutual distrust, managed through protocol. It happens at a river, prisoners walking from opposite banks simultaneously. No one fully trusts anyone, but the ritual's structure minimizes deception opportunities. Warriors on both sides have arrows nocked but not drawn, creating détente through mutual threat. The fascinating part is how information warfare continues even during peace negotiations. Your returned warriors are immediately isolated and questioned. What did they see in enemy camps? What did they overhear? Similarly, you know the enemy gains intelligence from their returned prisoners. This spy game within prisoner exchange adds layers of complexity no written treaty could capture. You participate in what your people call the Great Hunt War, a massive coordinated operation where warfare and hunting merge into a single strategy. Without written operational orders, 500 warriors from allied tribes execute a complex maneuver that will simultaneously feed the alliance and destroy enemy food sources. The plan is elegantly simple, yet requires precise coordination. Drive all game animals in a 50-mile radius toward your territories, while leaving the enemy's hunting grounds barren. The operation begins with fire. Not the destructive blazes of scorched earth, but controlled burns that create a moving wall of smoke. Animals flee predictably from smoke, and your people have spent generations learning exactly how they run. The fires are set in a sequence that creates channels, funneling deer, elk, and smaller game toward prepared killing grounds, where your hunters wait. Your role is with the fire setters, a dangerous position requiring precise timing. Set fires too early, and animals escape through gaps. Too late, and you're caught in your own trap. The communication between fire teams happens through smoke signals, not the simple enemy approaching signals, but complex patterns indicating wind changes, animal movement, tactical adjustments. The smoke itself becomes your communication network. Meanwhile, other teams destroy the enemy's food infrastructure. Their fish weirs are dismantled, their nut groves stripped bare, their root vegetable caches discovered and emptied. This isn't random destruction, but strategic starvation. Without game and stored foods, the enemy must either attack immediately while weak, or retreat to territories with food. Either choice advantages your alliance. The psychological impact is devastating. The enemy watches their land emptied of life, their winter survival threatened. Some surrender immediately rather than face starvation. Others fragment as individual groups seek food elsewhere, their unity broken by hunger. You witness the culmination of the campaign as your forces prepare for what will be the final battle. Without written records of past victories or defeats to guide them, your leaders draw on the collective memory of 20 generations of warriors. The battle plan emerges not from strategic doctrine, but from stories. Every tale of triumph and disaster contributing to the accumulated wisdom that shapes today's approach. The preparation is unlike anything you've experienced. This isn't just about placing warriors and choosing weapons. It's about creating the psychological conditions for victory. The entire camp spends the night before battle in what you call victory dreaming, a collective visualization where every warrior imagines the battle's successful outcome in precise detail. This shared mental rehearsal creates a psychological momentum that often determines battles before the first spear is thrown. Your position in tomorrow's formation was determined by a complex calculus of family history, personal achievement, and spiritual signs that no written algorithm could capture. The son of a coward is placed where he can redeem his lineage. The warrior who dreams of eagles leads the charge. The woman whose grandmother died in a similar battle takes her ancestors' exact position, completing a cycle across generations. The weapons preparation involves every member of the tribe, not just warriors. Children sharpen spear points, learning the weight and balance of weapons they'll carry in future battles. Elders inspect each weapon, their experienced hands finding flaws that younger eyes miss. Women prepare the war paint, each color mixed to exact traditional specifications that carry tactical meaning. Red for those seeking revenge, white for first-time fighters, black for those expecting to die. By dawn, your force has transformed from individuals into something greater. You charge into the final battle as the sun breaks the horizon. The enemy outnumbers your force, but numbers mean nothing against the coordination your people have achieved. Without radios or written commands, 500 warriors move as a single organism, each person knowing exactly where they need to be. The battle unfolds in phases your people have practiced since childhood, each transition happening automatically as conditions change. The opening is all about shock. Your fastest warriors sprint ahead, throw their spears, and retreat before the enemy can respond. This isn't random skirmishing, but precisely timed waves that disorder enemy lines. Each wave pulls back, just as the next launches, creating continuous pressure that prevents reorganization. Your main force strikes when the enemy is maximally disrupted. The charge happens in complete silence until the moment of impact. Then the war cry erupts from 500 throats simultaneously, the sound alone breaking some enemies' will to fight. You flow through their lines like water through a broken dam, each warrior finding gaps that seem to appear miraculously, but actually result from the previous phase's preparation. The battle's complexity would challenge computer simulations, yet your people manage it through pure intuition and training. Small units automatically respond to local conditions while maintaining overall coherence. When the enemy's left flank weakens, warriors flow toward it without orders. When their cavalry attempts to charge, your formation shifts to deny them lanes. It's military jazz, improvisation within structure. The moment of victory comes suddenly. The enemy's morale collapses like a rotted tree finally falling. One moment they're fighting, the next they're running. Your people don't pursue blindly. Designated chase units follow, while others secure the battlefield. Even in victory's chaos, discipline holds. You participate in the aftermath of victory, where the transition from war to peace happens through rituals that prevent the cycle of vengeance that could continue conflict indefinitely. Without written peace treaties or international law, your people have developed sophisticated ways to end wars conclusively. The process transforms enemies into potential allies, acknowledging that today's opponent might be needed against tomorrow's threat. The ritual begins with the bloodletting, not violence, but its opposite. Warriors from both sides voluntarily spill their own blood into the earth, symbolically feeding the ground that has drunk enough unwilling blood. This shared sacrifice creates a bond between former enemies. You watch your war chief embrace the enemy leader who tried to kill him yesterday. They'll never be friends, but they're no longer enemies. The integration of captured enemies follows protocols developed over millennia. They're not enslaved, but adopted, filling gaps in families that lost members. Your tribe gains new knowledge, their techniques for preserving meat, their understanding of distant territories, their stories that expand your world. Within a generation, their children will be indistinguishable from yours. The material redistribution prevents future conflicts over resources. Victory doesn't mean taking everything. Your people take what they need plus a symbolic tribute, but leave enemies enough to survive. Desperate people fight desperately. Those with something to lose seek peace. This calculated mercy, encoded in tradition rather than written law, creates stability that pure conquest never could. The memory of battle is immediately ritualized to prevent it from festering into future hatred. Both sides create a shared story of the conflict, acknowledging courage on all sides, mourning all dead equally. This narrative, repeated at every gathering, transforms trauma into teaching. Your grandchildren will learn tactics from this battle, without inheriting its hatred. You experience the long journey home, where the challenge of moving hundreds of warriors back to their territories without maps or supply lines becomes its own military operation. The knowledge of navigation lives in the collective. Each warrior knows certain landmarks. Together they know the entire route. The formation for travel differs completely from combat arrangements, optimized for speed and efficiency rather than fighting strength. Your force moves in what you call the river formation, a long, sinuous line that follows the easiest terrain like water finding its path. Scouts range far ahead, not looking for enemies but for resources, water sources, game trails, edible plants. The information flows backward through the line via runners, each group learning what lies ahead before they arrive. The wounded travel in the center, protected and supported. Those who can't walk are carried in rotating shifts. the burden shared so equally that no one is exhausted. Your people discovered long ago that distributed weight moves faster than concentrated burden. The same principle applies to supplies. Everyone carries some, no one carries too much. The psychological management of victory is as important as the physical journey. Warriors who've killed for the first time need guidance through the emotional aftermath. Veterans share their own struggles with taking life, normalizing feelings that might otherwise destroy young minds. The victory songs sung while marching serve as therapy, transforming violence into valor, trauma into triumph. Your return route deliberately differs from your approach, partly for security, but mainly for education. Young warriors see new territories, learn alternative paths, expand their mental maps. Every journey is reconnaissance for future campaigns. The knowledge gained now might save lives in battles not yet imagined, against enemies not yet born. You reach the boundary of your tribal territory, marked not by fences or signs, but by subtle indicators only your people recognize. The way certain trees are bent, stones arranged in patterns that seem natural but aren't, scent marks refreshed seasonally that create an invisible border. The homecoming ritual begins here, at this threshold between war and peace, between the warriors you became and the people you must become again. The purification ceremony is mandatory before entering the village, not from superstition, but from hard-learned wisdom about what we now call psychological transitions. Warriors can't simply walk from battlefield to hearth carrying the mindset of killing. The ritual washing in the sacred stream strips away more than dirt and blood. The cold water shocks your system, breaking the battle trance that's kept you hypervigilant for weeks. The announcement of return happens through smoke signals, visible for miles. Specific patterns tell the village everything they need to know before you arrive. Victory or defeat, casualties suffered, enemies captured, resources gained. By the time you reach home, everyone has prepared emotionally for what they'll see and hear. This preparation prevents the shock that can fracture communities when war comes home unexpectedly. The reintegration process is gradual and deliberate. Warriors don't immediately return to normal life. There's a transition period where you camp at the village edge, close enough for family visits, but separate enough to decompress. The violent reflexes that kept you alive in battle need time to soften. The hypervigilance that detected enemies must relax to not see threats in every shadow. Your dreams are filled with battles that blend into hunting memories, your mind processing the violence through familiar frameworks. The village healers know this pattern, provide herbs that ease nightmares, rituals that ground you in peace. You witness how your village processes the war's impact, without newspapers or public announcements. The information spreads through structured storytelling that ensures everyone understands not just what happened, but what it means for the tribe's future. The process is democratic yet organized, preventing rumors while ensuring transparency. The formal telling happens over 3 nights. The first night is for facts. Warriors describe battles without interpretation. The second night is for meaning. Elders contextualize events within tribal history. The third night is for future. The entire village discusses implications and decisions ahead. Your voice matters as much as the war chiefs in these discussions. The knowledge distribution includes children, but filtered appropriately. Young ones learn through hero stories that encode tactical lessons without traumatic details. Adolescents receive more complex narratives that prepare them for their future roles. The gendered knowledge that some societies restrict flows freely here. Women learn combat tactics they might need. Men understand the healing arts that save lives. The economic impact of war is managed collectively. Captured resources are distributed according to need and contribution, but no family is left wanting. Widows and orphans are immediately absorbed into other family units. The social safety net isn't a modern invention. Your ancestors knew that societies fracture when war's burden falls unevenly. The technological innovations discovered during conflict spread rapidly through demonstration. The improved spear-throwing technique you learned from enemies is taught to everyone. The new method for preserving meat, discovered during the campaign, becomes common knowledge. War, despite its horrors, accelerates cultural evolution. The memorial for the fallen happens not through monuments, but through living memory. Each dead warrior's name is added to the genealogy songs. Their stories merge into the tribal narrative. Their children carry special honor marks. Death in service to the tribe grants a kind of immortality. You participate in the transformation of war experience into cultural education. The battle you survived becomes a teaching tool for future generations, embedded not in textbooks, but in games, songs, and seasonal ceremonies that will outlive everyone present. This encoding of military knowledge into culture ensures survival wisdom passes down, even if specific battles are forgotten. The children's games are redesigned to incorporate lessons learned. The hiding game now includes the flanking maneuver that won the crucial battle. The racing game adds the communication signals that coordinated your attack. These aren't conscious military training, but play that builds tactical thinking into developing minds. By the time these children become warriors, they'll already know strategies that took your ancestors generations to develop. The seasonal ceremonies gain new elements. The spring dance now includes movements that mimic the river crossing technique. The harvest celebration incorporates the rhythm that synchronized your charges. Cultural evolution happens not through planning, but through organic integration of successful adaptations. These rituals carry military knowledge without militarizing society. Your personal transformation from warrior back to hunter, gatherer, and crafter requires deliberate effort. The skills are similar, but the mindset must shift. Tracking deer instead of enemies, throwing spears at game instead of people, using strength for construction instead of destruction. Some warriors struggle with this transition. The village has protocols for those who can't release the warrior mindset, including vision quests and healing ceremonies. The preparation for potential future conflicts begins immediately, but subtly. Resources are cached along likely routes. Alliances are maintained through marriages and trade. Young people are sent to allied tribes to learn their techniques. The peace is not passive, but actively maintained through constant, low-level military preparedness that prevents rather than provokes conflict. You observe the long-term strategic planning that happens without written documents or formal military institutions. Your tribe's elders gather for what they call the far-seeing, where decisions are made that will affect conflicts decades in the future. These plans exist not on paper, but in the collective commitment of the community, each person carrying a piece of the larger strategy in their daily actions. The demographic planning is sophisticated beyond what outsiders might expect. Marriages are arranged to create alliances, but also to diversify the gene pool and prevent the weakening that comes from isolation. Children are deliberately conceived after victories, when the tribe is strong and resources abundant. The spacing of births ensures there will always be enough warriors coming of age, but never so many that resources are strained. The technological development continues even in peacetime. Young people are encouraged to experiment with new weapon designs. The best innovations are gradually integrated into the tribal arsenal. Someone discovers that mixing ash with clay creates stronger pottery that can store food longer. Another finds that certain stones, when heated and cooled rapidly, create sharper edges. These peaceful innovations have military applications that won't be realized until the next conflict. The knowledge preservation system evolves constantly. New verses are added to the memory songs. Children compete in recitation contests that make memorization a source of pride rather than burden. The most important strategic knowledge is encoded in multiple ways. Stories, songs, dances, and games, ensuring survival even if one method is lost. You witness how your people prepare the next generation of military leaders without academies or officer training schools. Leadership development happens through a complex system of mentorship, spiritual calling, and practical demonstration that identifies and nurtures command potential from childhood. The process produces leaders who think strategically while maintaining the common warrior's trust. The identification begins early. Children who naturally organize others during play, who remain calm during crises, who see patterns others miss, are quietly marked for leadership development. They don't know they're being groomed. The training is woven into their normal education. They're given slightly harder tasks, exposed to more complex problems, included in adult discussions earlier than their peers. Your nephew shows these traits, and you watch his subtle cultivation. He's sent on more difficult hunts, not to test his physical prowess, but his decision-making under pressure. When he succeeds, the praise is muted. When he fails, the lessons are intensive. He's learning that leadership means responsibility for others' lives, that glory is less important than group survival. The spiritual component can't be ignored. Future leaders often have prophetic dreams or survive unlikely situations that mark them as chosen. But your people are practical. Spiritual calling without tactical competence means nothing. The shaman's son who has visions but can't track deer will never lead warriors. The balance between inspiration and skill is carefully maintained. The mentorship system pairs young leaders with elderly warriors who've survived enough battles to understand both victory and defeat. These relationships last decades. Knowledge passing through conversation, observation, and shared experience. The old warrior doesn't just teach tactics but wisdom. When to fight, when to flee, when fighting without fighting achieves more than victory. You understand now how your people maintain military readiness across generations of peace, without standing armies or defense budgets. The solution is elegant. Warfare training is embedded so deeply in daily life that maintaining combat readiness requires no special effort. Every routine activity serves dual purposes, keeping skills sharp while serving practical needs. The hunting parties that feed your village are also reconnaissance patrols. The routes they take aren't random, but follow strategic paths that need regular observation. They note changes in terrain, new water sources, potential ambush sites. Their reports about game movement include military intelligence without anyone calling it that. The construction projects that improve village life double as siege training. Building the new ceremonial lodge teaches the young how to construct defensive structures. Digging the new well demonstrates sapping techniques. The stone wall protecting the grain storage shows fortification principles. Every builder becomes an engineer without knowing it. The athletic competitions at seasonal gatherings aren't just entertainment. The spear throwing contest maintains accuracy. Wrestling matches teach close combat. The long-distance races ensure message runners stay conditioned. Winners receive honor that motivates continuous training, but everyone participates, keeping the entire population combat capable. The storytelling traditions preserve tactical knowledge across peaceful generations. Every tale of past battles includes specific details about what worked and what didn't. Children absorb military wisdom while being entertained, their minds cataloguing techniques they might need decades later. Even the patterns woven into baskets encode formation diagrams that future generations can decode if needed. Your daily life exemplifies this integration. This morning you tracked deer, reconnaissance, practiced spear throwing, marksmanship, helped build a neighbor's shelter, engineering, and told your children stories, knowledge preservation. You maintained military readiness without thinking about war. The genius of a system refined across millennia. You participate in what will be remembered as the last great gathering before the world changes forever. Tribes from regions so distant their languages sound like bird songs have come to share knowledge of a new threat. Pale strangers from beyond the sunrise ocean, carrying sticks that throw invisible spears with thunder's voice. The information exchange at this gathering would fill libraries, yet not a word is written. The military intelligence your people have developed about these strangers emerges through systematic oral reports. Coastal tribes describe boats larger than entire villages. Mountain people report seeing smoke without fire from the strangers' sticks. Each observation is repeated, verified, integrated into a growing understanding of an unprecedented threat. The tactical adaptations your people devise show remarkable innovation. Without ever seeing a firearm, your strategists deduce from descriptions that these weapons need time between strikes, work poorly in rain, and require supplies the strangers must carry. The counter-tactics developed, rapid assault during reload, fighting in wet weather, targeting supply lines, are remarkably accurate despite being based on second-hand information. The psychological preparation is equally sophisticated. Your shamans interpret the strangers not as gods, but as men with different tools. This philosophical framework prevents the paralysis that might come from facing seemingly supernatural opponents. Stories are quickly developed that normalize these new enemies, integrating them into existing worldviews rather than allowing them to shatter cultural confidence. The alliance formed at this gathering is unprecedented in scope. Tribes who fought for generations agree to share everything: territories, resources, knowledge. The existential threat overrides ancestral grudges. New communication networks are established, runners' routes mapped, signal systems standardized across linguistic boundaries. You realize you're witnessing your world's last moment of innocence, when stone and courage might still match iron and gunpowder. You stand with your son on the same hillside where this journey began. But now you're the elder, he's the young warrior, and the world has transformed beyond recognition. The strangers with thundersticks have established settlements along the coast. Some tribes have made peace with them, trading furs for metal tools. Others prepare for war, with weapons that haven't changed in millennia, against enemies who bring tomorrow's death. The knowledge transfer happening between you and your son carries new urgency. You're not just teaching him to fight. You're transmitting an entire way of war that may not survive another generation. Every technique, every strategy, every piece of wisdom accumulated over thousands of years must pass through this narrow bridge of memory, from old minds to young ones. Your instruction includes adaptations for the new reality. The ambush sites that worked against traditional enemies won't work against those with far-seeing glasses. The formations that stopped spear charges crumble before invisible projectiles. Yet much remains relevant. Terrain reading, silent movement, psychological warfare. The bonds that make warriors fight for each other, rather than abstract causes. The most important lesson is adaptability itself. You tell your son how your people adapted when horses arrived, when climate changed, when new tribes invaded. The tools change, but warfare's essence remains. Organized groups imposing will through force or threat. Those who adapt survive. Those who don't become memory. Your son absorbs these lessons differently than you did. His world includes possibilities yours never did. Metal tools, new diseases, concepts like ownership of land that your language doesn't even have words for. Yet he must maintain the old knowledge while embracing the new, becoming a bridge between worlds. You close your eyes for the last time as a warrior, knowing that the age of stone and sinew is ending. But the knowledge you've preserved will echo through time in ways you cannot imagine. Your people's military wisdom, encoded in stories and songs, in dances and games, will survive even as the world that created it disappears. The children around your deathbed will carry fragments forward, not as conscious military doctrine, but as cultural DNA. The morning mist parts one final time in your fading vision, showing not the past, but glimpses of futures. Your descendants will fight in ways you couldn't imagine, with weapons that harness lightning and messages that travel faster than thought. Yet they'll still use the principles your people discovered. The importance of surprise, the power of unified action, the wisdom of knowing when not to fight. The specific techniques will become anthropological curiosities. How to nap a perfect spear point. How to read tomorrow's weather in tonight's sky. How to coordinate hundreds without writing. But the deeper lessons about human nature in conflict, about organizing groups for collective violence, about maintaining warrior spirits while preserving humanity, these will remain relevant until the last human conflict. Your breathing slows as you feel the presence of all who came before. The nameless thousands who refined the art of war without writing a single word. Their knowledge lives in you, and through you, it will live in others. The chain of memory that stretches back to the first human who picked up a stone in anger will continue forward, transformed, but unbroken. The last thought that crosses your mind is pride. Not in victories won or enemies defeated, but in successfully passing the torch of knowledge to the next generation, ensuring your people's wisdom survives, even as their world ends.